All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Carrie Lichty, and I'm the Assistant Director of Marketing Communications here at the Louisville Institute. And you are here for the 2025 Doctoral Fellowship webinar to learn more about our Doctoral Fellowship program. We're going to give you an overview. It'll be about 25 minutes or so, and we'll be answering questions at the very end. So your chat is disabled. Feel free to use the Q&A throughout, and I'll be answering some questions throughout, and then we'll answer most of them at the end. This will be available in replay, and I'll send this out to you by the end of the week, so you can share it with your friends or rewatch it later. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. I'll be posting helpful links in our chat along the way. So now I'm going to pass this over to Amy Moiso, who is our Associate Director, and she is the program officer for the Doctoral Fellowship Program. There you go, Amy.
Thanks, Carrie, and welcome everyone. We're glad to have you with us today for this Doctoral Fellowship introduction. This is the last of our webinars and also the last of our programs for this year. So you are way ahead of things if you are on this today, because you actually don't even have to apply for this until next March. So way to go. If you're feeling behind in other parts of your life, know that you are ahead in this. So good job, everybody. We're going to walk through the basic pieces of what the fellowship is and what the application looks like, so you'll be all prepared when that deadline comes up in March. So briefly, in case you don't know anything about the Louisville Institute, our mission is to bridge church and academy through the grants and fellowships that we award. We give awards to pastoral leaders, to scholars, to academics, to professors who are studying various aspects of religious life in the United States, and particularly the Christian church in North America. So our grants help to promote that scholarship and to bridge that gap between church and academy. So our grants and fellowships are available to people in North America. That's the United States and Canada, plus US territories. And we have a series of grants and fellowships that we offer each year, and all of them are oriented toward scholarship that contributes to the flourishing of the church. So our programs are the Pastoral Study Project Grant, which is our grant specifically for pastoral leaders. So pastors, musicians, folks working in different kinds of ministries, whether they're ordained or not ordained, or in a tradition that doesn't ordain women, or doesn't offer ordination in a sort of mainline way. It's a very broad program for pastoral leaders. Then our grant for researchers, which is for academics doing research projects. First Book Grant for Scholars of Color is for early career academic scholars of color who are looking to get tenure and need to get that first book published for tenure. The Doctoral Fellowship, which you all are here for, which is for first and second year doctoral students. I'll say more about that timeline in a second. Dissertation Fellowship, which is for when you get to that last year of your dissertation writing. It's a dissertation completion fellowship to help you get that done. And then the Postdoctoral Fellowship, which is for after you've finished your PhD and you're looking to get out into the world and do some teaching. That's the Postdoctoral Fellowship. So those are our programs, our grants and fellowships, all oriented toward the flourishing of the church in North America. So what about the Doctoral Fellowship? So the first thing to say is, we have an application guide on our website for each of our applications for fellowships and grants. You're going to want to download this Doctoral Fellowship one. Carrie should be putting that link in the chat right now so you can have it in front of you. I'm going to be referencing this as I go through. So if you have it in front of you, then you can sort of have the leg up on seeing what I'm talking about. And I'll also have on the slides these little bubbles that tell you what page I'm on, so you can see as we go along. If you miss something along the way, as Carrie said, this is going to be posted later, so you'll have another chance to see it and to get that. But all the information that I'm talking about today is in the guide. So you're going to make sure that you're going to want to make sure you have a copy of this as you're working on your application. So what are the doctoral fellowships? So this is in the guide on page 1 and 2. These different aspects are described. But basically, the fellowships are not just purely money. It's primarily a vocational formation program for current pre-dissertation PhD and THD students who want to consider theological education as a vocation. I'm going to describe a lot of those words as we go along in case that's confusing. But really, this is not just about money. It's about formation and considering vocation in theological education. There is money involved. Each of the 2 years that you're part of the program as a doctoral fellow, you get $3,000. You can do with it whatever you want. It's for your edification as a doctoral fellow. So you can use it to go to a conference, you can buy a new computer, you can pay your rent if you need to, whatever it is you need to do. It's just money to sort of help you in those early years of your doctoral program. And more importantly, there are 3 cohort gatherings each of those 2 years. So 6 total. You come here to Louisville. We put you together with your cohort of doctoral fellows, along with some other fellows. I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. Those happen October, February, and May. So these are academic years, fall to spring for 2 years. And you get that $3,000 with it. So who's eligible for a doctoral fellowship? This is really important because it can be a little bit confusing. So this is in the guide on page 3 in detail. You need to be in your first or second year of your PhD or THD when you apply. So if you're going to be starting this fall, you are eligible to apply in the spring. If you've done a year already and this is your second year, you're eligible to apply in the spring. If you haven't started yet, you're not eligible. If you're already in your second year, going into your third year this fall, then you're not eligible. You need to be at an accredited graduate school. You need to be in the United States or Canada. You need to live here in the United States or Canada. And you either need to be a US or Canadian citizen, or you can be an international student with the appropriate student visa. So the idea is you need to be here. Your citizenship is not as important as the fact that you're already here, because we can't bring you from somewhere else to participate. So you need to have those pieces, and then you have to have at least 2 years left in your program. So programs can vary how long they are, but we need to know that you have 2 more years because it's a 2-year fellowship. We need you to be able to complete the fellowship. Most of our applicants, just to circle back to that, most of our applicants are in their coursework when they apply, or they have recently completed it. So those first 2 years are mostly coursework for most of our fellows. We want to find people who are passionate about theological education and the future of the Christian church in North America. So a lot of our fellows in this program and in our postdoctoral program are folks who have been clergy before, or have worked in various ministries and then gone on to do a PhD, or they're doing it simultaneously with their PhD program. So you're going to find a cohort of people who really care about the church and want to bring that part of themselves to their doctoral work. That's what we're looking for in this program. And then finally, you can be in a variety of different kinds of disciplines. So it can be history, ethics, practical theology, biblical studies. You can work interdisciplinarily. There's lots of different options here. But the idea is that we want you to be working in some field that's going to have an impact on the church, and that you have a passion for that. All right, so all the doctoral program and the postdoctoral program are part of something called the Vocation of the Theological Educator Initiative. Those are the formational gatherings that I mentioned before. So this is in the guide on page 4. VTE is this vocational formation program, and it's rooted in this idea that people who are working in theological schools and churches should be attuned to the life of the church and the life of the scholar, and that these two things go hand in hand. So if you find yourself in that space, that you're walking that bridge between church and academy, that you love the church and you love being a scholar, this is the right place for you. So VTE was formed to try and lift up those kinds of folks within the academy, to really be that bridge and to be that center point between church and academy. Oftentimes, as I mentioned, VTE participants are ordained pastors or leaders in their religious communities. And we bring you together with postdoctoral fellows and 2 cohorts of doctoral fellows, so ones who would start next year and ones who have already started this year. So you have a robust group of folks who are all committed to this, who you join with as part of the gatherings that happen in Louisville 3 times a year. So that's what the Vocation of the Theological Educator Initiative involves, is bringing folks together to really have these conversations about the future of theological education and why it matters to the church. Okay, so what do we mean by theological education? This is part of this overall understanding of trying to define all of our terms, right? We all know how to do this in our doctoral program, so you're getting it today in a slideshow as well. What is theological education? So traditionally, we might think of that as being the course of study that's taught at a seminary or a div school. For our purposes, we see it encompassing academic study and teaching of religion and its practices, but also that broader question of what does formation look like for ministry, for leadership, for social justice, for public service. So we're looking for folks who really want to be engaged in that formational work of education for theological purposes, for missional purposes, for social justice purposes? What is the formation that we want to give students toward being able to act out their faith in the world and be leaders of that in the world? So that's what we mean by theological education. Of course, a lot of it is still rooted in seminaries and div schools and the kinds of things that are taught there. But just so you know, we have a somewhat larger frame as we think about what theological education encompasses. All right, so here's the timeline for what the doctoral fellowship looks like. Application due date is not till March, so you have several months to get ready, which is great. We announced the awards in May, and then you would start as a fellow in the fall of 2025. So you do the academic year 2025-26 and 26-27. So it goes from fall 2025 through spring 2027. The gatherings then happen October and February and May of each of those 2 academic years. Okay, how do you apply? Real basic. You've got the application guide in front of you. I know you all are reading it. It's your syllabus. You know how important syllabi are, so you've got it in front of you. Here are the things that are in pages 7 through 10 of the syllabus. Download that guide, read it through carefully so you know what to prepare. Create your online profile in our application portal. That's on our website. You could just go to Louisville-Institute.org and find it under fellowships. Going to create a profile for yourself. If you've applied for something with us before, you probably already have a profile. Feel free to use that same one again, or if you can't remember if you have, Carrie can get you connected and let you know if you have one or which email you used to set it up. We can work that all out on our end too. You're going to prepare all your materials and submit them by March 1st. And you're going to send any questions to us at fellowships@louisville-institute.org. Those go straight to Carrie. So it goes to a live person. She will respond to any questions that you have. But that's the best way to get through to the right person who can answer your questions about the fellowships. So what's in the application? What are we looking for? These are spelled out really clearly in the guide on pages 8 through 9. There starts with some general information about you, name, your program, your educational background, a little bit about your possible dissertation focus. We know you haven't gotten that all planned out yet. It's just to give us a little bit more information about who you are and what you're interested in, but we're not looking for you to have the perfect dissertation already framed in your mind. We know you're at the beginning of the program. Just a little bit of get to know you kind of information. The heart of the application is the application essay. It's only 1,500 words, so not super long, just 5 to 7 pages. And we want to know why theological education is important to you. Why have you chosen to pursue an advanced degree in religion? What do you want to do with it? What do you hope your vocation might be? Why does it matter to you? Why has it mattered to you? And why does it matter to you in the future? We want you to reflect a little bit on theological education and the church. Why does education matter for the church? What are the possibilities and challenges of theological education at this time and in this place? And where do you fit in? What are your gifts and skills? What are your academic goals? How do you align with those kinds of big picture questions about theological education that we're all thinking about right now as we think about the academy and the church? So that essay is really the heart of what we want to hear from you. We want to know who you are. We want to know why you're passionate about this. We want you to be honest about that and share with us who you are. So this is not strictly an academic essay in any way. It's really about what you care about, what you're passionate about. We want a transcript of your program so far. We know you might only have a semester under your belt. That's fine. We just need to have confirmation that you're in the program and what you've done so far. And a brief CV or resume, just 4 pages. Don't have to put everything you've ever done in there. We just want a little bit more information about who you are. And then there are 2 letters of recommendation. One's going to be from your primary advisor in your program, and the other one can be an academic mentor of your choice. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. Those come in after the application. So when you apply, you give us email addresses and contact information for your recommenders, and we send them an email to submit the letter. So you actually have another week after that March 1st deadline for the letters to come in. You can obviously do this ahead of time. You don't have to wait until March 1st, but just know that the letters don't have to be in on March 1st. They can come in all the way up to March 8th. All right, what makes for a strong application? So first of all, please read the materials and follow the instructions. Again, this is your syllabus. It's going to tell you what you need to do. All of our programs are pretty competitive, so the more you can give us exactly what we're asking for, the better. We're not going to be counting exactly how many words are in your essay, but if you don't submit it on time, or if you don't answer the questions, those are going to be things that are going to be more problematic. So just follow the instructions and you'll be fine. We want you to demonstrate your interest in and passion for theological education. So if you send us an essay that's just your resume recited, well, that's not going to get us very far. We want to know who you are and why this matters to you. We want you to make a good argument for why theological education matters and how you want to be part of it. We want to see that passion. And we want to have a sense that you've thought about it a little bit. What is going on in theological education, in these fields of study, in the history of the church at this moment? Think about that a little bit and tell us what's on your mind. There isn't a perfect right or wrong answer, but we want to know you've thought about it. We want you to then take that and draw connections between your own sense of vocation, your doctoral program and what you're working on, and what you're seeing in the broader Christian church. How are these things intersecting for you? Where do you see yourself in the middle of those intersecting roads or on that bridge between these things? Who are you within that? And what do you hope your vocation might look like? We encourage you to share your proposal, your essay, with advisors and colleagues, particularly people who've applied for fellowships and grants before. They're going to have a good sense of what an essay might look like. We encourage you to give them also the essay prompt so that they can see what you've been asked for, and then they can give you feedback on whether you're actually meeting the requirements or not. Additionally, it helps if you give that information to the people who are going to write your recommendation letters, because then they're more prepared to speak to what you have already named in your essay as part of who you are. Finally, you can always ask questions at fellowships@louisvilleinstitute.org. Louisville-institute.org. All right, how does the selection process work? Pretty straightforward. We appoint a selection committee on our end. It's all scholars in different religious fields at different institutions across the country. It's a diverse group of folks in different kinds of stages of their career. So it's not just senior scholars, some are younger scholars, different kinds of orientations to their work, different kinds of institutions. They get together and they read all the applications, and then about 8 weeks after the due date, they get together and discern who the candidates are going to be for the fellowship. We usually get about 60 applications for the doctoral fellowship, and we're going to award 10 in 2025. And everybody who's applied will be notified by email as soon as possible after we have that selection committee meeting, but we'll announce the awards publicly in May. So you should know ahead of that May, that public date, what's going on. We do let people know as soon as we can after the process is complete. All right, a few tips and advice. It's a long way right now or it feels like a while between now and March. Many of you are probably just starting a semester or about to start a semester, but it's not a bad idea, and you already are doing this, to download that application guide so you know what you need to do so that you're ready when March comes around. The time goes quick, and this way you'll just be ready to go. You'll need recommendations from your primary advisor and another academic mentor, so make sure to give those recommenders lots of time to let them know that you're going to be applying for this in March and you're going to need a letter from them. Again, consider sharing your essay with your advisor or other colleagues to get their feedback, and follow those instructions so that you make sure that you've submitted all the things that we need. And questions, fellowships@louisville-institute.org. A few other little tidbits of information that might be of use. First of all, you can only apply for one LI grant or fellowship per year. So we're in a current grant year, started June 1st, goes through May 31st next year. You can only apply for one thing. For the most part, if you're a doctoral student, you only are eligible for one thing, so you're going to be fine. But just know that you can't apply for more than one thing in a given year. If you're in a practice-oriented doctoral program, like a DMin, I'm sorry to say you're not eligible for this fellowship. These are for research degrees, so PhD and THD in particular. If you have questions about that, feel free to ask us, but DMins, unfortunately, are not eligible for this fellowship. If you haven't started your program yet, that is, you're not starting this fall, you're not going to start till next year, wait until 2026 to apply. And if you're already going to be ABD next summer or next spring, if you're already going to be basically to your dissertation stage by next spring, don't apply for this one, apply for the dissertation fellowship, because just timing wise, it makes more sense for you to be a dissertation fellow than a doctoral fellow. The dissertation fellowship due date is February 1st. We just did a webinar about this yesterday. Carrie's going to put it up on the website. So if you're confused about which one you should apply for, you can go watch that webinar too. And then let us know if you have questions about where you fit. If you're in a program that doesn't seem to fit the guidelines that we're offering here about timing, like maybe you don't have the same kinds of semesters or quarters of coursework that other programs do, you're not sure if you fit the eligibility requirements, just email us. We can let you know for sure if your program is a fit for this. But generally, you're going to be in a PhD or THD program in a religious field. All right, Carrie, what questions do we have?
So one is actually timing. So am I correct in understanding that there is not a fellowship for the comprehensive examination portion of PhD, correct? That's
yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a separate fellowship for that, but many of our doctoral fellows are in comprehensive exams. So because it's 2 years long, if you apply in your first or second year, you're in your second or third or sometimes fourth year, depending on how the timing works out, of your program while you're a doctoral fellow. And many people are in comprehensive exams toward the end of that time. So there's not a separate fellowship, but under the doctoral fellowship program, you would be part of that, that group during comprehensive exams.
All right, great. Okay. My PhD program will be something I'm doing online, and the coursework is 2 to 3 years long. I am assuming that if I wasn't accepted in the first year, I would be able to apply again the following year.
I'm just reading this again. Yep. Coursework is 2 to 3 years long. Yes, that's fine. Yep. You would be able to do that. I think. So if you are starting, okay, let me see if I understand this correctly. If the coursework is 2 to 3 years long, but you haven't started the coursework yet, you can still apply in your first or second year. That's great. If you're in coursework, but you're in your third year, we would need to have a different conversation because I would need to know more about how long the program goes and what that looks like. So you just be in touch with us about that. If you're in your first year, just starting your first year right now, and you didn't get a fellowship this coming year, you could apply next fall again or next spring again. I hope that made sense.
Just one more question. So if you all have any other questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A and then we'll wrap this up. I'm in a broader PhD program focused on rhetorics and communication, but I am focused on theology, sacred rhetoric, and spirituality. Does this still count?
It does. The trick is that we need you to talk about why you care about theological education and make that connection for us between what you're working on in your program and theological education and the future of theological education. But otherwise, being in rhetorics or communications is fine. I see this one about attending the sessions in Louisville. I'm unclear why you might miss, sorry, the question is, if there are conflicts with attending sessions in Louisville, should we not apply if we might miss one of those? I don't know that we've provided dates for those yet, so I'm not sure how you know if you might miss one. But essentially, if you're a doctoral fellow, they are required as part of the doctoral fellowship that you would be here because it really is a formational program and this is part of the formation. If you're concerned that you will be missing class or something like that and that you wouldn't be allowed to come, that's something that we can work out with your institution, because if you're awarded a fellowship, we will make sure that your institution understands the importance of you attending. So if that doesn't answer your question fully, make sure to just send that to Carrie and we can address that more fully.
Yep, I will be happy to answer that question if you give me a little bit more specifics. I'm going to put our email again in the chat. We don't have any other open questions at this time. So Amy and I are going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for attending the Doctoral Fellowship webinar. I will have this posted on our YouTube channel later this week. And we will, I will send you out the replay link of that. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email us fellowships@louisville-institute.org. And thank you for joining us.